All right.
However,
Well, what's that, Connor?
I was going to say, however long you think people will want to listen to me.
They will.
I thought that recording thing, and I was like, oh, it's live.
It is live. They will listen to you forever because you are a fun individual. Too much fun, if you ask me. Because when I work with you on the weekends, I have to drop you off, designated driver. Last time Connor and I worked together a couple weeks ago, Connor, Jenny, and Luke. Was it Luke?
Look,
Went roller skating. I went back to the hotel.
I'm still upset that you didn't participate in that, but
I want to ask you this though. This podcast is all about just being fun, real. How does Conor Murphy stay so upbeat and positive? That is something about you. Like, I see your name come up on the seminar schedule. Like, I'm going to work with Connor, and I'm like, shit, I got to bring it. How does that happen? Because not everybody can do that.
it's funny because you asked that question off the bat, and I think it goes a little bit deeper. That I think you have to, at some point in time, either experience or have some sort of kind of relative misery that is out there in order to stay positive, in order to see the little things that sometimes will want to throw you off. You realize just how small they are in the grand scheme of things and how much worse things could be. And I don't know. I just enjoy things more if you just.
So what was that misery for you?
Kind of being lost when it comes to the stuff in the Navy. It's being a SEAL was all I ever wanted to do, and when I suffered an injury that kind of stopped me from being able to live that dream, like I felt lost. I felt like I had failed, and from there, oh, thank you. And so from there, it was, anything else that I didn't have as much meaning, and I wanted to be something that I wasn't, and I felt like the world owed me something because I had done and tried to sacrifice what I thought was so much, and getting that in return. And it wasn't until I moved down to St. Thomas and I met Chris Irwin when I really started to realize, because this is a guy who's been there, done that. I mean, he had done everything I wanted to in a career. He was in the SEAL teams. He was an officer. He went to DevGru. He was, everything I wanted to be. And he didn't think the world owed him anything. And he also didn't think that anything he had done in his past should define how people feel about him today. It's like each day he had to prove that he was worth something, and he wanted people to respect him for who he was, not that he had previously had. And so when you take that approach to it, it's like, yeah, you can be fun sometimes, but if you just meet someone and you're not in the greatest mood, and they don't know that you have that, like especially when it comes to the seminar setting, like you've got to show people kind of that side of it, and it has to be genuine. You can't fake it. I don't know.
No, I think that's great. I think, if someone said, how would you describe Conor Murphy? I would say always ready to party. That would be my definition, right? So there's a difference between like, hey, you're in an upbeat mood. Most people on seminar staff are going to bring it for those, 2 10-hour days. But yeah. You are then, you want to go roller skating? You want to go do this? Okay, I don't need to sleep. That's hard. So when does Conor Murphy chill out, and what does that look like?
Oh, man.
Or do you not chill out?
No, I think, a lot of the times, Monday through Friday, we're at work, and probably at work, I would be exactly how you would think I would be at work.
Yeah, you're at a box all day.
Yeah. But I go home and I kind of unwind and relax. I read in the mornings a lot of times, because if I don't, I won't do it in the afternoon. My brain's just fried from working. So that's kind of my downtime. I like to read books. I'm not very good at listening to books on tape. My mind just wanders. So I've got to kind of go at my own pace there. That would be a time that I relax. I think, I don't know, I just like saying yes to opportunities. And even though you're tired, you start to become more selective, as like, I know I'll enjoy this even if I'm tired right now, or I know that if we make these memories, they're going to be awesome. Like down the road, once you recover and once you get that sleep and you start feeling good again, like that's going to be such an awesome memory to have.
And you know, and that's, I agree with you. That's how you were, you know, with roller skating, or when you're on the, you know, the cruise, water on the waves, which we'll talk more about. You're very in the moment. But have you ever been so in the moment that it's cost you, like, now I'm exhausted, now I'm providing a shitty product the next day and you've regretted it?
Oh, 100%, absolutely. And I think that you need to have those times in order to master that skill, I suppose, or kind of being selective about it, because it used to be, hey, I would say yes to everything. And there were times when I would be out, not enjoying myself, really just out for the sake of being out. And then the next day you're like, that wasn't even slightly worth it. Like that, now I'm miserable, I'm tired, I don't feel good. There was work that I needed to be done. Then you get like this wave of anxiety that rolls over you, and you're like, okay, I need to be selective, or at least smarter about the things that are happening.
But those same moments were probably many nights where one thing happens and all of a sudden it was one of the most fun nights you've ever had.
Absolutely.
So you never know.
Correct.
So, you know, let's go with this example. We're out. I'm at the hotel at this point. You three are roller skating. You go to a karaoke bar. Now it's, you know, it's not too late. Say it's 10:30. Is there a trigger inside of you that'll say, I have to get up for a day two tomorrow? Or if Jenny and Luke were like, let's go to the next bar, are you in no matter what?
I think it depends on what I'm able to control and what I'm not able to control. You know, a lot of people will see, hey, you know, oh, Conor likes to party. He goes out and, you know, he drinks, and he was drunk this night. But, you know, if there's a responsibility the next day, there's times when I feel like I've done it enough to where I know where I'm at my limit, to where it's going to affect kind of the quality of what I'm able to do the following day. And I think that it's the people as well. You know, if Jenny's like, hey, we're going to go to this next bar and we're going to take shots until we can't stand up anymore, then it's like, well, I'll go to the next bar with you, but I'm not going to drink anymore. But it's like when you're around those same type of people who want to just have a good time, it's like, hey, we'll all go and we'll all participate and we'll all have a blast. But it doesn't mean that it has to be like, hey, we're going to go to the next level here.
Yeah, and I don't want people leaving this to be like, Connor's drinking all the time. I mean, even that night, you had like 2 beers. It's not like you're getting completely wasted, but it's, for me, man, if I don't get my 8 hours of sleep, I'm wrecked. Or I feel like you can survive on 3 hours.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it may not be ideal, but there are times too where it's like, hey, I didn't get the amount of sleep my body needed, but it doesn't matter. I mean, once you're in that moment too, like you're already in it. Nothing you can do can make you go back and change the amount of sleep you got. So if you wake up, you only got 3.5 hours of sleep. It's like, hey, it's time to own it. Like, you made your bed, you sleep in it. Like this is what it's gonna feel like today, and you still got to bring 100%.
Control what you can control at that point.
Yes, and I
Is
think
that
it comes back to what you said. It's like also living in the moment. You know,
is
I feel like if you're like an 8-hour sleep guy and you're like, oh man, I didn't get my 8 hours, today's not going to be a great day. It's like, it's the same thing as having that, like, the Whoop bracelet on. It's like, oh, you didn't get fully recovered. So now in your head, you're like, oh, I'm only 85% recovered today in this. And it's like, doesn't matter when it really comes down to it. Like, if you have something to do, sometimes you just have to man up and do it.
man up and do it? Is that something, do you feel like that you've learned from the Navy though? Like there are probably nights where you didn't get enough sleep and still had to perform. So is that something you learned from the Navy?
I would say it's not something I learned from like the United States Navy that was like instilled in me there, but there were guys, and because I was very young going through, they like to take me out and get me really, really drunk. I mean, I'm like a wind-up doll, right? You just wind me up and then watch me go. And it was cool for me hanging out with some of the older guys and getting that opportunity, and hanging out with some of the, you know, the instructors and people who want to have fun with you. But then it's like the next day you're expected to perform. So if I wanted to live in both worlds, I had to make sure I could do both. So that was something to where it was like, no matter how bad I was, it was like, hey, you still got to show up here. You still got to show up. And you got to do your part. And maybe that was a way that I felt like I could fit in. And then I just kind of got used to it.
Is being the only sponsored CrossFit athlete by Miller Lite a part of it? Do you feel an obligation to be the guy because you are sponsored by Miller Lite?
No. There's probably other reasons to why I feel like I'm responsible to be that guy.
What are those, so I'll give another example. We were at this summit a couple of years ago, and you're like, there's some water. I'm gonna jump in that water. I don't remember if you remember saying that, but you're like, there's water tonight. I'm gonna get wasted, and I'm gonna be in that water.
Did I
Like
say I'm
that.
gonna get wasted? That doesn't sound like something I would say. You make me sound worse about. Actually,
Well,
probably in my head, I sound really cool, but then when it's said back to me, that's what I sound like. And I'm
no,
like,
we're at a summit. Like it's all the
yeah.
trainers, but like you're like you're the guy that's bringing this party to an 11.
I think that has something to do with it. I think that there are very, very responsible people. And it doesn't go with just, it's not only CrossFit trainers, it's a lot of times with CrossFit athletes and some of the fittest people in the world. They're like, hey, I don't normally do this stuff, but I know that if it's going to be with, or if we can get Conor involved, it's going to be fun. And I'm not the guy to be like, I'm going to try to force everyone to drink until they get sick, but it's like, I'm going to have the most amount of fun that I can possibly have. And a lot of times that just enables other people to be like, hey, if he's going to do it, if he's competed before at the games, or if he's a trainer as well, if he's going to do it, then why can't I do it? So I think it kind of like allows people that. But I have to say, I mean, I start to be a little bit more selective with it and a little bit more tame with some of the antics.
Now you're married. You have a kid on the way, August 31st. So is this going to slow Connor down? Are we done seeing? Are you going to get sponsored by like Pedialyte instead of Miller Lite?
I feel like Pedialyte would be a worse sponsorship because the only time an adult human should be consuming Pedialyte is when they've drinking too much of what was mentioned before.
Well, is this something that's gone on since you were a kid? Have you always been the fun guy?
Yes.
That was you. Are you an only child?
No, youngest of three.
So youngest of three. Was it Conor Murphy needs attention? Because
100%.
that's what it was. There we go. So now you said you worked down in St. Thomas. You ran the box down there that our buddy Zathan is now running, correct?
No, Zathan's back up here. Zathan actually owns his own affiliate, CrossFit Athletic Center in Worcester. So just like 30 minutes down the road from where we live.
Okay, so Zathan, he's back in town?
Yes. So Zathan's lived here now since the hurricane, a year and a half ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. He's still posting pictures that look like he's down there once in a while, maybe. But so what was that like being down there? People think, oh, that must have been just amazing. You're a CrossFit coach. You're in this destination area. Was it as fun as it sounds?
It's a yes and no. Yes, in the sense of on the weekends, you had opportunities to hang out with friends who became family. You go boating, there's beaches, there's sun, there's parties. Everyone is, wants to go out and have drinks afterwards. This community was incredible. That there's one time specific that I remember is that Chris Irwin, who I was running the gym with, him and his wife were the owners. He was like, hey, I'm going to bust out my guitar and play some cover songs. And this bar Iggy's was like, hey, sure, we'll have you down here. And so we told our CrossFit community, like, hey, Chris is going to go down here. And like 70 people show up to watch Chris play and have some drinks. And so then every bar is like, hey, we got to get this guy to come play here because he brings this huge community. So it's like the community aspect that we had down there is incredible. I mean, tighter than any other community that I've seen in the CrossFit world. And I think it was maybe just these import, people who had moved down there from the States that were kind of this land of misfit toys all got together in this, and they had this kind of shared bit of wanting to be healthier while also like really enjoying the lifestyle that they lived. But what I'd tell you wasn't super fun was having to bring 3 or 4 pair of underwear to the gym because it got so hot that if I didn't change underwear between classes, I got jock itch. Like, no, that wasn't super fun. When you're not at the beach, the 100% humidity and 90-degree weather isn't the most enjoyable thing in the world.
Yeah, you can't really go out and not sweat. You're just sweating as soon as you leave the house.
And it's 2-bay garage door underneath the school that we had, 13 mismatching fans. that you turn on to try to get some sort of cyclone in there to, one, get rid of the bugs, the mosquitoes, and then two, just to have some sort of cooling system.
With that being said, 3 years in a row, you were runner-up at the Latin America Regional. So training still went down.
Well, yeah, and that was, you know, it was simpler for me. My job was to open the gym and to coach classes, and through that comes the community piece, the community part. But as well as I'm always in the gym, so I had the opportunity to train. I had the opportunity to do a morning session, an afternoon session, and a night session, and I have the time to work on skills instead of trying to jam everything I think I needed as an athlete into 1 hour. You know, I got to spend the time and skills to develop by doing an hour's worth of cardio in the morning, and then maybe an hour lift in the afternoon, or vice versa, depending on what I was doing, and then focus on gymnastic skills. Like I don't have 30 minutes to spend on gymnastic skills or weightlifting practice now. So I just take my 1 hour class in the day. I go as hard as I possibly can. And that works really well for me now. But I'm also not trying to develop as one of the fittest athletes in the world. I'm not trying to compete in the sport of fitness.
But are you still as fit doing that?
Arguably, across one workout. I mean, what am I training, right? I'm doing one workout a day for 1 hour. I would put myself fresh up against myself at, let's say, my fittest in 2014 when I was in St. Thomas on any single workout. Yeah, absolutely. But if I was required to do 7 workouts over 3 days, I would probably tail off in that latter end, because that's just not what I'm doing.
Do you think because you were in Latin America, you didn't get the recognition you deserved? I mean, you came in third, second, and second 3 years in a row. Anyone else in the world that would have done that would have been at the CrossFit Games.
I felt the opposite. I felt that I almost got too much recognition and notoriety for standing on the podium. I got a sponsorship from Reebok for just being the best athlete in an area that was undeveloped for CrossFit. I don't want to say the people down there weren't fit, because there's some people down there that did some incredible things. But if you wanted to look at statistics on people that were competing, that were getting 5th and 6th place in the Northeast region while I was standing on a podium, there was a big difference there. And there's some workouts where my scores were up there, but I got as much recognition as I think I deserved. I don't think that they should have been like, oh man, they should have taken you to the games. And it's like, you know, maybe I don't finish in last place, but I'm not standing on the podium at the games. That's for damn sure.
So second place for you, can you think of like who was still better than you in the Northeast, even though they didn't make it to the games or they weren't on the podium?
Let's see. I mean, 2013, Matt Frazier didn't make it to the games, and I'm pretty sure he was fitter than I was. 2014, Spencer Hendel didn't make it to the games. I trained with those guys every day. Austin and Spencer didn't make it that year, and they were leaps and bounds in front of me. You know, I beat Austin on one workout, which was the hang snatch, and
which was the workout that cost him the games trip, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. I just, you see someone, and that's the evolution of the sport, right? But you were a top athlete in that region and never got that opportunity to compete there. And what was the moment where you were like, I got to get out of St. Thomas?
I don't think I ever had that moment. I think that I was recognized by Reebok by being potentially a good person to represent their brand in the area that I was. So they had reached out. I signed a contract with them. I came up for a photo shoot. And then the opportunity of what's kind of funny is just kind of being myself and being the center of attention during a photo shoot caught the eye of Austin in the opposite way, because Austin was like, this guy is completely different from me in the fact that he likes the attention. They were having me do flips off of stuff and be ridiculous and make fun of myself. I'm not afraid, I wasn't afraid to look bad in that. It's like, hey, this is a photo shoot. And when they needed a coach up there, Jared Davis was like, you got to get someone who has a little bit more personality. And so Austin was like, this kid came up, and James Hobart actually vouched for me. It's all kind of like the people that you know. And that's when they said, hey, do you want to come up for a potential coaching opportunity? And it wasn't that I was like, oh, I need to make this parallel move as head coach of St. Thomas to a coach in Reebok CrossFit 1. But the opportunity to develop as a coach and as an athlete was significantly higher up here than it was down there.
Who's had the biggest influence on your coaching development?
On my coaching development, if I had to name one person, it can't be like a series of people.
Sure, anybody that you want to give a credit to, but I mean, when I ask that, I assume you're going to say Austin, but are there other people that you would give credit to?
I wouldn't give as much to Austin, not saying that he wasn't a huge impact on me as a coach, but I learned a lot. I'm contrarian by nature, so a lot of times when I'm told to do something, even if it's something I'm already doing, I'm more bound to stop doing it than continually do it because I'm told to. So a lot of times Austin and I would butt heads, but what really did was spark conversations that made me dig deeper into understanding. And we would argue back and forth on stuff. Even though he had a lot more knowledge, sometimes I just think he was smart enough in the category that he would argue just for the sake of arguing. Like if I would have taken another stance just to play devil's advocate, he would argue the other side of something. Denise Thomas, a lot in the sense that she practices what she preaches. You know, with the lesson plans and writing that stuff down, it's like, hey, if she's going to tell me to do this, she's doing it herself. So I think there was a lot in that. But I do have to give credit to James because I would watch the way he would treat people in the gym. And I would watch the way that he would speak clearly to classes. And I always found myself rushing, where I learned more from just watching James, not from him actually teaching me anything, but just watching and seeing the things that I really liked as a coach and trying to replicate those things.
You know, Austin and you are two of the most polar opposite people I can think of. Yeah, you are super close together. Is having someone that is so different than you beneficial when you're trying to become a better coach, or does it just drive you crazy?
If you're able to swallow your pride and you trust that person, it's the most beneficial thing.
What's the biggest argument you've ever had with him?
Oh my gosh. You know who would start laughing right now if they're listening to this is Matt Della Valle.
Our good buddy MDV, who I've had on the show. Yeah. Why would he laugh at this? And he worked with you guys for quite some time.
When he listens to this, I'm not even going to, like, during this portion, he knows exactly what story I'm going to tell. And it cracks me up so much. So I'm writing programming for the gym. And the programming that I write is so different from Austin because Austin is like couplets and triplets, keep it simple, elegant. And I like just doing different things, like having to explain a workout 3 or 4 times to a class. So they're like, okay, I think I know what's going on here. And this was a little bit simpler. So it was like, I want everyone in the gym to work up to a heavy squat clean. It doesn't have to be a 1 rep max, but it's something that's really heavy, meaning that once the form and mechanics started breaking down, once the elbows started dropping as they're standing on the clean, like, that's your heavy weight for today. And then everyone was going to take 90% of that. And it was going to be like 60 burpees per time. Every minute on the minute, you hit 1 clean at that weight. And this is when it was like percentages were not a part of CrossFit's programming. And like, why we did not.
Too complex just yet. This is not too bad yet.
No. That was the only workout. The issue is that we didn't lift in percentages because it wasn't a linear progression, or it wasn't this like 5-3-1 Wendler lifted this percentage, because we're doing a lot of different stuff. So Austin's main thing is that he just didn't want percentages on the website because they weren't exact, even though it didn't make sense in this scenario, because it was like, it's the percentage off of what they did just right then.
Right, not off of something they should know from months ago.
Correct. So he was like, they're going to have to do math in there. And I'm like, well, then how do you want me to word it? Do you want me to say, take about 30 pounds off, unless it's less than 150 pounds, then you'll take about 20, like how do you, and we were like yelling at each other, and it like died down. And so he's just like, I said, like, because it's my, the last one he kind of pulled out, he's like, because I run this gym and that's what I said. And so I sat there for a little bit, And I go, so can I say about 10% of what you hit? And he just lost it. And Matt was like just dying back and forth. It's, you know, and it was just simple things. He didn't want percentages on there. And I thought it was a great work. And I didn't want to like back down from it and just change it to put a prescribed weight on there. Because if you're going to match the stimulus for everyone, that percentage would be the most appropriate way to get there, as opposed to having a prescribed weight that like it's the same thing. And
what was the outcome? What did you wind up going with?
we did not put a percentage on the website.
Yeah, Austin wins as usual. So an MDV was there just laughing at this whole situation.
Oh, we brought it up multiple times. Like he had to leave the office because we were like legitimately yelling at each other, and I was just like, "You're just being ridiculous because you're blindly following something like a rule that says we don't put percentages on a website. Like this is in accordance with what you're saying to match the stimulus. Like the intended stimulus is going to be this, and this is the fact." And it was just like, because he was so much smarter than me, still is, but especially at that point, that he was just like throwing things on top that like I didn't know how to combat. I was just so angry. Like, why can't you just let this happen?
So someone listening, you're a high-level coach. You're on the CrossFit Level 1 seminar staff. You know, I think we both agree the best coaching staff in the world.
Level 1 and Level 2 staff, no.
Level 1 and Level 2. So people listening, we get a lot of coaches. They deal with similar scenarios with their box owner, other coaches, partners, etc. What can they do? What's something actionable from Conor Murphy that will allow them to grow as a coach, although they may be dealing with someone as hard-headed as Austin?
So as a coach to the owner?
Correct. If someone's listening, they just took their Level 1, their Level 2, or they coach at a box for some time, and they're like, the box owner won't allow me to do X, or the box owner makes us do this. What's something you have for them?
I think a common thing that I see is like hey, our owner wants to have 4 parts of a workout in a 1-hour session, and you guys are telling me that this is the part of it. And it's hard because you can be like, oh, well, this is how it should be. But like how a coach would talk to that box owner is I think that not arguing it, but offering solutions to any question or problem. To be like, hey, I like it and I understand this programming. Can we try this for 1 day and see what happens? I'd like to put a bunch into like the technique part of the front squat, and then we're going to do squat cleans afterwards in the workout. There's not going to be a bunch of pieces to it. I just really want to teach this. And it's almost like, yeah, we'll allow that to happen. And then if it happens and it happens well, to be like, hey, here's what I want to do this again. And instead of being like, hey, what you're doing is wrong, we need to change it. It's like just like finding small areas to where you can almost convince them that it was their idea.
Yeah, but like you said, I think a lot of it is have that solution there, and also if they agree, you better be prepared.
Oh, absolutely. If they're going to give you an inch, you've got to take that for everything that it's worth, to where there's absolutely no doubt. And then when they're like, oh man, that was really cool. Like, I feel like people came up to me afterwards and they're like, I felt like I got better in this fight. I didn't just get a workout. Like, I felt like I got better at this movement. And you're like, that's cool. Maybe we can do that more often. Like, yeah, maybe you program that 2 or 3 times. You're like, okay, I'll do that. And then it was like, you kind of have to swallow your pride, because you're like, yeah, jackass. This is what I've been trying to do for months.
Yeah, I've been telling you we should put percentages on the website. So you get there, you learn from Austin, and now, Reebok has moved from Canton to downtown Boston. You run the second floor, which you made sound like is everything but CrossFit. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 different studios. We have our cycle studio, which holds all of our cycle classes. A lot of people think that it's spin classes, but spin is actually an affiliate very similar to CrossFit. So when you use spin, you're referencing a very specific license.
Oh man, I was Johnny G spinning back in the day. Yeah, you don't got to tell me.
And then there's a dance studio that hosts a lot of our Les Mills classes. There's, body pump, body jam, CX work, body attack, body flow.
Do you teach the body jam class?
I participate in the body jam class every now and again. Oh
Body
yeah.
jam is basically dance aerobics.
It's not basically dance aerobics. It's choreographed dance aerobics.
Yeah. So I mean, where I had Albany CrossFit, they had all the Les Mills classes in the gym, and they had body pump and all that stuff. And if you've never seen Conor, he can dance. This boy can dance.
Body jam is enjoyable.
So do you enjoy running that area as much as you would running a CrossFit affiliate?
It's a challenge, and and I work with different personalities, and I work with people who know more about their discipline than I do. Yet I still have to make the decisions on what is best for the gym. And there's sometimes when I have to say, hey, this class isn't what this class is, and I need this class to take priority. And it's not an easy thing, and it's absolutely a challenge, but I enjoy gaining proficiency there and actually managing people in an area that I don't know as much about. And it also pushes me to understand and learn more about those disciplines, which isn't, it's not going to hurt me as a coach or as an athlete.
Has it opened your mind to fitness? I think you're pretty open-minded to begin with, but I think for a lot of people, once we find CrossFit, it's like blinders on. This is the only type of fitness you need. This is all you should do. Has it allowed you to kind of say, maybe I can try body jam or body pump or a straight up bodybuilding workout, that I don't need to only do CrossFit?
I was never on, as much as, I guess I'm going to try to go two extremes here. CrossFit is the most effective way to get fit, hands down. There's just nothing else as far as, one, defining fitness, and two is just getting yourself there. But what that also means that you don't have to do CrossFit. There are people who don't do any CrossFit at all, who are instructors at the body gym, that do the boxing classes, they'll do the Orange Theory type fitness classes. They run stairs, they're active, they're outside. It's like, if you just get people moving and you understand that your priority is to get people moving, that's the goal. And when people start to want to understand and know more, that's when you can start to give them those doses of CrossFit. That's when you start to throw, well, there's a reason why you time things in CrossFit, because this is what you can get from it. Here's X, and then here's your result. And it's really cool to get those wheels turning. But a lot of times you're going to turn someone off to CrossFit because you're like, hey, this is the end all be all. And people take their, people that do the cycle classes, the cycle beat style, the music pumping. And if you go in there and just say, hey, the how your shoulder is meant to move, the mechanism is incorrect, what you're doing on the bike, and you're going to get, and people are just like, like, screw off, man. Like, I'm trying to enjoy myself in here, rather than, you hop into those classes, and then when people are like, hey, I've got some shoulder stuff going on. Well, here's how I actually want you to press. This is the way our shoulder's meant to move in this position. Like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that's why in CrossFit, where I'm teaching you to do a push-up where your chest touches the ground and not halfway through, because a lot of times this will happen. And they're like, oh, man, awesome.
So do you see some of those classes and just cringe with some of the movements they do?
Not as much. A lot of the trainers that we have here in the other disciplines are pretty squared away. Honestly, the thing that I see that I cringe the most with is when people just do half squats. Like, I just want to go in there and say, this is fucking wrong.
Well, in some of those classes, I'm not trying to knock it. It's just they're moving on a beat, right? So it's hard to move through a full range of motion and stick to the number of reps you're supposed to be getting, or to the beat you're supposed to be hitting.
Absolutely.
So, do we ever see Conor Murphy just go in there, record screech to a stop, and yell at them to get below parallel?
What do you think the answer to that is?
I think that once in a while that probably happens. And
if it's my class, like if there's like a boot camp class that I'm learning in there, good. But if it's someone else's discipline, that's also part of it. Being like, hey, I know this isn't what's probably healthiest for them, but they're having a good time, and I've got to abide by what I'm supposed to do as a manager here. I'm not the fitness manager. I'm not the White Goodman to walk around and be like, you call that a sit-up? Like, I'm the manager of people in classes. And if I'm going to have an instructor lead a class and they're going to have people half squat, then I need to take that up with that instructor after the class. But do I want to? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and then you can have the argument, what's healthier, squatting not below parallel or not squatting at all, right? So at
Yeah.
least they're moving.
You're like,
Now,
yeah, I can't squat anymore. My knees hurt. And it's like, well, yeah, because you squat like an idiot.
yeah, we could fix that with some good squats. So with Austin last year or earlier this year, actually, you guys released WOD on the Waves, which I was a part of. Huge event, super awesome. What's going on with it this year? A lot of people that are listening probably want to know when it's happening because I've been talking about it, and it was really just incredible to be on this boat surrounded by fit people like the entire Mayhem team, Dan Bailey, Josh Bridges, and you guys. When is it happening again, and how did that even come about?
So I don't know if right now I'm allowed to say, hey, this is the exact date it's going to happen again. I can tell you that it's in April, and there's still some stuff that's being finalized with it. But WOD on the Waves 2 is 100% happening. We couldn't have been happier with the feedback that came from it, the amount of participation that we had, and what in the direction that it's going. How it came about was a few guys that had a pretty significant amount of money were like, hey, we came up with this idea. We wanted to have fitness on a cruise, and we think you're the guys to help us do it. It was odd because they approached Austin and myself. And it was like, well, Austin and I run things very, very differently. And I think this was a start. And this was about 3 years ago, about at least 2.5 years ago. This was just an idea. And then it just kind of started moving forward from there. But it's like, we want to have that fun, outgoing personality, party atmosphere in there. But we also want to make sure that the entire planning of it is very meticulous and that everything, goes off accordingly. And to where Austin and I can both complete a task very well. We may go about it different ways, which made us really understand that working together was the best way to do it. So we flew down to Miami. We looked at a cruise ship. The guys were like, is this doable? We said yes. And then it was like, all right, what equipment do we need? How many people do we need on board? What are the classes? How many coaches? What? And then it kind of spawned to this huge fitness that went outside of just the realm of like your typical CrossFit affiliate goers, to where it's like, hey, we're going to have this, the same stuff you're seeing in your affiliate, we're going to have on this boat. And, we're doing these movements. We're doing, we have the concept too. There's going to be rowers on this boat. We're essentially going to take a cruise ship and what a normal cruise ship is. And I hate to offend people when I say this, but in St. Thomas, when you refer to cruise ship passengers as newlywed, overfed, or almost dead. And it's like, those are the typical people who go on cruises. So what if there was this aspect to make it a draw for this younger generation? And it's that, hey, these people don't want to just go eat at the buffet, get fat, and be, sedentary. These people want to move, but they want to enjoy the island hopping experience that a cruise ship, brings. So we did our best attempt to try to bring what we thought the fit generation or community, whether it was you did CrossFit, you did yoga, you did cycle classes, bodybuilding, powerlifting, any of that stuff. We wanted to give something to each one of those kind of disciplines to bring them on board a boat. And this January, we had 2,700 people that just gave a shit about fitness a little more than they did, just going on a vacation, come on board with us. And, somehow we pulled it all together, and it was an absolute blast.
Yeah, it was a blast. And, when I was a kid, I cruised a lot. That was what my parents liked to do. So having experienced a lot of cruises, this was even better because, I always make sure I can work out on cruises. It usually becomes a lot of body weight stuff and, just finding some space in their gyms. But this was so cool. There was rigs set up, and I remember one of the funniest parts of the trip for me was I was hanging out on one of the rigs, and the entire Mayhem team, so Rich Froning and his teammates, come out, and they're basically doing Cindy. And then there was another rig maybe 20 feet away, and it was a lot of like bodybuilding people doing curls and, strict toes to bar. And it was just so funny for me stepping back to watch the two different groups of fitness, but everybody just having a good time. And it was really fun to see. And, there were the bodybuilders that were getting on the ski ergs doing tricep extensions, which was fun to watch.
That was great. Oh yeah.
You know, and then there was the CrossFitters that were doing bodybuilding. So it was cool. And if you just want to watch fit people work out, that was cool. I loved listening to Hinshaw give his seminars and get out there and practice. So there was so much cool stuff. And I always say about a cruise, you can eat really well too. There's just tons of fruits and vegetables. It's up to you how much you want to drink. Like if you want to do the Fireball 10K with Conor Murphy and do shots of Fireball every 500 meters or whatever you got, you could do that. But if you want to just go to the buffet and grab some pineapple, you can do that as well. So I'm excited that it'll be back again. Where can people find out about that?
There's gonna be some announcements going live on Instagram. New website is going to be launched here pretty soon, and then be looking for tickets to go on sale in July, tentatively. But it's gonna happen, and the second one is gonna be even better than the first. And it's, we take the feedback that we got from everyone on board. We separated into different categories and say, hey, how can we attack this? To where now we're going to have, with it being in April of next year, we're going to have this year to really take care and get everything squared away as far as that goes. And it's, gosh, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, Roz really did not want to go on a cruise, and she's already said she will never go on another cruise except WOD on the Waves. So
yeah,
there you go.
We got a lot of that feedback, people being like, I can't go on another cruise now. Because like what you said, you do have healthier options, but on this cruise, we had Eva Claire Sinkowski completely redo the menu as far as not only what foods were available, but the amount of what foods are available. Like you're not going to have on a normal cruise, you're going to have pancakes be the number one item for breakfast, not fried eggs and bacon. When you go on a cruise where people really care about that stuff, it's going to be the opposite. So the whole change in that, it was very cool and it's very unique.
Yeah, it was great. Classes all day long, so many options. I remember that first day, there were these two girls that came. I coached like a 6 a.m. class with Ryan Fisher, and I saw those girls take like 3 classes in a row. And I'm like, all right, those girls are going to have rhabdo and they're done for the week. And then they would be back the next day just working out all day. They loved it.
There were some people who literally went to every class they could. It was like just nonstop.
You're getting coached by something. It was, whether it was him or you or Austin, Vellner's on there, like some amazing coaches. Yeah, you want to just take advantage. Now, Big change coming up in your life. How excited are you to be Daddy Conor? Is that what you're going to go by, Papa Conor?
Papa Murphy?
Papa Murphy? You excited about this?
I'm so excited. I can't tell you. The whole process of finding the right person, which we had such a great test with living together, working together, competing together for the 2017 season. We got engaged in 2018. We got married. She was like, I want to go right into having kids. I wanted to wait a little bit. So I wanted to put some focus on this WOD on the Waves thing, and I knew it was a great opportunity. And it was something that both her and I work hard enough and are, I suppose, sufficient enough at our jobs to be able to have a kid and continue to work and be okay. We bought a house together about a year ago, and now we have a baby on the way, and I can't tell you how excited I am. Baby girl.
How did you know when it was the right person? You meet Rachel Martinez. How did you know she was the one?
This is an interesting question, and I've answered this on a much less public setting to a friend of mine recently, to where people say, oh, when you know, and I think that's bullshit. Maybe it is for some people, but that wasn't it for me. And I had dated before and met some really awesome people, and there are some character traits in Rachel that I had yet to find in another woman. And she is a better human. She is a better person than I am. And when I realize that, and I understand that if I'm going to make this commitment to her, and we're going to do this, and we're going to raise a family together, not everything's going to be perfect, but I'm making that decision. You make that decision just like every day you wake up and go to work. And there may be a time where you're like, hey, I don't want to work this job anymore. And unless you have some something legally binding you to that job, there's no reason why you can't just walk away. But when I made that commitment to Rachel, it was no matter how good or bad, this is the commitment I'm going to make to you. And there's times where you got to sack up, you got to man up on some stuff. So it's like, hey, things aren't the best that they could ever be right now. But I made this commitment to this person who is better than I am. And so we're going to have to ride this thing out. We have to communicate and go through it. And once I had decided that it was no longer like, oh, is she the right one? It's like, I'm going to make her the right one by giving her what she deserves. And I think that was when it was like, yep, we're going to do this thing. And since then, I haven't looked back at all. There's been times where it's been hard, absolutely. And we're only a year into our marriage. But I've never looked back to say, hey, this wasn't the right decision, because I made the decision, and I will continue to make that decision every day that I wake up.
Yeah, I think that's the best part about being married. It's like you're committed, and everything you do is to move you guys in the right direction. And that's one thing you have to accept. It's going to be hard, but it's like anything else. It wouldn't be worth it otherwise.
Yeah. And I think it comes back to the same thing. We'll take it on a less serious subject, but a lot of times people ask me like, oh, Conor, you're kind of like known as the party guy. And I think that'd be fair to say. And I don't want to like toot my own horn, but I'm also known as someone who gets their job done, who, yeah, he can go out and party, but he's also the guy who's going to wake up the next day and get that stuff done. And sometimes when you care about people and environments and your tasks and responsibility and following up with what you say, it takes a lot of this like guessing game out of it. It takes I don't feel great today, maybe I'm not going to do this. It's like you make a commitment to something. It doesn't matter what happened beforehand. It's what's going to happen right now. When you wake up in the morning and you're a little bit hungover, but you still have a job to do, you get up and you do that job.
Yeah, I agree with that about you. You are someone that when I see your name pop up, I'm like, oh, this shit might get crazy. We might go roller skating in Tampa. But I'm not worried that barbells aren't going to get set, rings aren't going to get set. Conor Murphy gets the job done no matter what. Last question I want to ask. I ask everybody, what's a book you recommend the audience checks out?
Oh, gosh. There's a lot of maybe give me a category, like a category of what type of book.
Any book. What's one book every time I see you have a different book on you, so you're constantly reading, but what's just one book you've loved and you think the audience would benefit from?
The War of Art.
The War of Art. Who's that by?
Let me look it up. It's the same person who Turning Pro.
Last time you and I spoke, you recommended a book called Traction as well. So you check out the War of Art. I'll add that to the list. I have a list compiled from all the guests of the book they recommend. So always looking for new stuff to read.
Yeah, Stephen Pressfield has a few books, but he has two: Turning Pro and The War of Art. And as far as just like general reads for people, because we can go down a path to where it's like, oh, what are you focusing on? This is a really good book for that. I think it's for anyone to read.
I forget what guest I had on, but they recommended Turning Pro. I forget who it was, but one of the guests recommended that book. So I'll definitely check him out now that he's been recommended twice.
Well, let me recommend another book then, if someone else already recommended that.
What's that?
A Message to Garcia.
A Message to Garcia. Why that book?
You read it?
I've not read it, no.
Elbert Hubbard in 1899 wrote this book. It'll take you about 20 minutes to read.
Yep.
It's just this thin little book, and it is wildly profound and just a way just get it done.
All right. Well, I'm going to listen to that today or read it today. Message to Garcia. So thanks for those two recommendations. Anything else we can throw out there for you, Conor?
I appreciate you bringing me on here. I think people wanting to hear what I have to say is somewhat new, as if I don't have that personal connection with someone. So I think I have some learning to do on how to speak to a general public rather than people that know me. But I really appreciate you having me on here. I'm looking forward to getting you back for the second WOT on the Waves. And,
Yeah, we are excited about that. And as you know, Jenny and I are in Largo at the end of June, and I told her I would go roller skating this time. So
I need to see videos of that, because you
I
know
was-
what? I was willing to bet that when we were out there just rollerblading, just hitting it with the songs and trying not to crash, at one point in time you were like, man, I bet rollerblading would be fun right now, as you were laying in bed.
you know what?
Comfortable.
I don't have a lot of regrets. I don't know that it's a regret, but I think it would have been fun. And well, again, it wasn't about not being fun. It was about being too set in my ways. So I need to have a little more Conor Murphy and live in the moment. But I appreciate you being on. And there was a couple of people at the box down here. I had you sign shoes for them a couple of years ago. But yeah, they're definitely people that are big fans of Conor. And I think the big aspect of what they love about you is you do have that fun, outgoing personality, but you get shit done. Whether it's you can enjoy a drink or two. They love that you're sponsored by Miller Lite, but can still throw down and beat just about anybody in the world at a workout. So it's pretty cool to see someone that lives in balance. And it's been great chatting with you.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. And if you have anyone who has feedback or wants any questions, just give them my email, and I'll always respond to that.
Yeah, I'll put all your stuff in the notes, and it'll be great. They can reach right out to you. Thanks a lot, Conor.
All right, mate. We'll talk soon.